Carla, would you please call the roll?
Saltzman,
Here.
Novick,
Here.
Fritz,
Here.
Hales, Fish.
Here. Mayor Hale sends his regrets. He is in Washington, D.C., making a presentation on behalf of the city of Portland. We are channeling good vibes his way. And this is a wonderful occasion when we celebrate sister city relationships, and we want to thank all of our honored guests for being here today. What we're teed up to do is to actually get a report on sister city activities, and I'm going to turn it over to President James Autry. Mr. Autry, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Fish, and as well as all of the other commissioners. Each month, I am now chairing our monthly meeting of Sister City Presidents here at the City Hall in the Rose Room. And my responsibilities is to kind of bring all the different presidents together and have them share stories and collaborate and best practices and be able to share how we can support each other. As for my relationship, I am the president of the Ashkelon Israel Sister City Association. And as I am in that role, it's a new role for me. I've been working with them as a volunteer for about 5 years, but then the last 3 years have become the president, and we are in the process of rebuilding our board as well as putting on different activities throughout the region. Ashkelon is an ancient city, over 4,000 years old, just south of Tel Aviv, and also we'll be celebrating 30 years next year as far as a sister city relationship with the city of Portland. And we have amazing things that are happening in Ashkelon, lots of developments that are taking place. We have a brand new mayor, Itamar Shimoni, who was elected there a couple of years ago, and so we're working with him on various capacities. And then we've been active here in the local area. One of the things that we accomplished this last year is we brought in a university student from Multnomah University to partner with us and to do the research that was needed to ascertain what type of businesses are operating in Portland as well as in Ashkelon that are in 3 major areas: medical breakthroughs, electronic breakthroughs, as well as environmental breakthroughs. And our task is, now that we have that list, we're going to begin the process of making relationships take place to where we could see some economic developments take place between the 2 companies that are here and there. Israel has amazing breakthroughs that are taking place. They invented the peel cam as well as cherry tomatoes, if you enjoy those. Those were developed in Israel. And then they have a brand new exoskeleton system that allows people who are in wheelchairs to get up and actually walk. And then there's a car that runs on air. So that's an amazing breakthrough there. They're testing those things out. And so there's amazing things that are taking place. And so we're very excited to be a part of the development there. And so we are launching and beginning to relaunch our activities both here and there. And our plan is to go to Israel. I've been there 3 times, but we will be going to Israel later this fall. And so that's for the Portland Ashkelon Sister City Association.
And
Yes.
Mr. President, thank you for a very succinct presentation. And I note that I have some materials that Hector Miramontes has put together originally for the mayor, and I should acknowledge his good work. Actually, this is a superb briefing set of materials.
Great.
I'm being spoiled here. We will hear from all 9 leaders of sister cities. Each member will be given 2 minutes to do an overview. And I'm supposed to say at the outset that we want to acknowledge the role that President Dwight D. Eisenhower played in 1956 when he inaugurated the Sister City International Program. So thank you, sir, and we'll go to our next presenter.
Hello, my name is Philip Potestio, and I'm the president of the Portland Bologna Sister City Association. This event has become an important part of my year, and this duty, reporting of our progress and our endeavors in this past year, has become more than a duty, it's become a pleasure. So I'm happy to be here. Immediately, I'd like to report that within 2 weeks, we will be visited upon by 9 students, high school age students from the city of Bologna, Comune di Bologna, along with the chaperone who will be spending 15 days in Portland. This is our 9th iteration of this. We exchange on a year-to-year basis, so it's reciprocal. Most of the hosting students that are from Portland this year will be able to go to Bologna next year during the summer. We plan to offer a whole and partial scholarship to our students next year. last year when they went to Bologna, we were able to give out our first full scholarship to a deserving student who couldn't otherwise afford to be able to go. And we liked the taste of that so much that we plan on continuing. PBSCA is also pursuing a craft beer exchange with Bologna, a city with its own beer renaissance going on. Through the Comune di Bologna, we've contacted several small breweries, craft breweries there, and we're connecting them with principals from the Portland Craft Beer and Oregon Brew Festivals. And we foresee selected brewers being able to exchange from both cities, dialoguing, displaying, distributing, dispensing, and drinking each other's brews. We also are going to be visited this year by a group called Riding a Bike Can Save the World. It's a grassroots organization that started in Bologna. Several gentlemen are going to be doing the Pacific Highway ride and are starting their adventure in Portland. So we are the first city. They will be bringing a message from the new mayor of Bologna. We also just recently had an election. And hope to meet with people involved with the municipality of Portland. And a greeting or audience would be great when they're here September 1st and September 2nd. And I'm going to be sure to notify the Royal Rosarians of their arrival as well. We also, of course, are involved in things like food and fashion and film. We've made outreaches, sponsored numerous events, garnered support and publicity. And of course, we have our hand in vino as well. This year, we've had 2 separate events featuring wines from around Emilia-Romagna, which is the state, the regional government that Bologna is in. We had 9 regional wines at a tasting and a fun event at E&R Winery, and we also had a Lambrusco festival at Grassas this last year, which was great too. We too are expanding our board, and we've had 2 new people added onto the board, both from industry, which is good. We're hoping to keep our contacts with business and industry vibrant. Thank you.
Phil, thank you very much. And Commissioner Fritz and I had the pleasure of spending part of this morning with your son.
Oh,
Phil, just based on my own experience in Bologna, I'd be really interested in a pumpkin tortellini exchange. If
yes.
that could be arranged.
A tortellini cart would be nice, wouldn't it?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
We'll
you.
now welcome, who would like to go next? Sir?
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Antonio Carrillo. I'm the president of Portland Guadalajara Sister City Association. Was elected president since October. Definitely, I stepped into a role that was very well prepared for me, thanks to our past president, Stephanie Lamberson, who's, probably you've heard of and done a lot of hard work. Portland Guadalajara is proud to be a sister city for the past 33 years. We obviously could not have done this, and we thank the mayor's office as well as Hector Miramontes and the Department of the Sister City that's a great liaison for us between both our cities. Just as a little bit of a background of the city of Guadalajara, it's the second biggest city in Mexico, holds about 4.3 million citizens, of which, our work as a sister city is very important down there. One of the slides that we have up that I'd like to talk about is our annual donation to a school of autism down there. It's called Fundación Faro de Alejandría. Now, this school, in the city of Guadalajara, autism isn't really a well-known or very, an area that's not, a source of common, they don't talk about it a lot, per se. So this school, they'll accept anybody, they'll diagnose anybody. You have children who have been there since very young, 2-3 years old, and now they're adults. They came in not wanting to speak, not wanting to touch, and now they do all of those things. So it's a beautiful thing, and we're very proud to be involved with that organization and give them an annual donation. As well as our festival that we have on the waterfront, which is the Cinco de Mayo Festival, which we hold at Tom McCall Waterfront Park. We average about 300,000 visitors each year, including performers and craftsmen that fly out directly from the city of Guadalajara. So this is where we take great pride in infusing the city of Portland with the cultural of the city of Guadalajara. And this is our annual main fundraiser where we receive all of our funds that we then funnel back into our community and the city of Guadalajara. Within that festival, we have a naturalization ceremony, which is headed up by the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration. We average of about 50 new citizens that are sworn in every year. And it's a beautiful experience to see all these members from different countries become, living the American dream and becoming United States citizens. In this picture, you can see Mayor Hales accepted our invitation, and he was our keynote speaker last year at the naturalization ceremony. A couple other items that we had here, you'll see a picture of a young lady by the name of Karen Ruiz Lopez. We were able to partner up with another organization and fund a scholarship for young Latino women that look to further their career and their education in the education field to become teachers, superintendents, and other things in our community. We also are glad to head up a Adopt a Classroom program. Here you'll see a Albina Head Start. These underprivileged children, they give us a wish list. Thankfully we have the funds to be able to be their Santa Claus for that Christmas. So we take great pride in that. And lastly, we were able to make a visit to the city of Guadalajara in March to board members and myself. We were down there focusing on reestablishing our relationships, not only with different organizations, but especially with the mayor's office in Guadalajara. And, I'm proud to say that a lot of that work, some of that work has paid off, as one of our delegations was able to visit us. The Director of International Relations in Sister City, Monica Sanchez, is joining here today, and I know you guys heard her words downstairs earlier today. So thank you very much.
President Carrillo, thank you very much. Now we welcome President Michael Bostwick.
Hello, Council. I'm Mike Bostwick. I'm President of the Portland Kaohsiung Sister City Association. I was nominated and voted in last December. And I'd like to say that this was nice this year. This is the first time that I can remember that we had a delegation come to the reception, be here on time. They usually come in late tonight and they don't make the reception. So I'd like to thank the delegation for coming. This will be our 28th year for the Dragon Boat races, which is a cultural event that we've brought over here and started in, I guess it was 89. So it's been going on, and it's had its ups and downs, and we're back up again. We had a high of 96 teams, and we're starting to build back up after the recession. We lost a lot of teams, but now we're back up to at least 65, so it's come along fairly well. One of the things I'd like to emphasize is the comparison between Portland and Kaohsiung. Transportation-wise, they're building a light rail system similar to ours that encircles our city and connects with a subway system that crisscrosses the city. But their transit system they're building now doesn't have wires like ours does. They're on battery operated, and they charge when they come into a station. They charge the batteries to be able to go on to the next couple stations. So it's kind of interesting. It's nice to see it going along with no wires up above and things. And they're also very into developing green buildings. Their library, their convention center, their stadium are all green buildings. A lot of them have solar on top and everything, and lots of light and heat and stuff from the outside. So
Are you trying to stoke a feud here between these two cities?
Yeah,
Are we trying to
yeah,
get the competitive
you know,
juices flowing? Is that
sure.
what you're doing? Okay.
it'd be good. So that's one of the things. And we also are proud to say that the city collaborates with us in putting a float in the Rose Festival Parade for many years, and we have another one this year. And we also put a float in the Starlight Parade, which is one of our dragon boats, and we choose a different team each year to be on that float and stuff, and it's very nice. So in relation to that too, we also, with the Shuta High School coming, this is their 25th or 6th year they've been here for exchange and things, and we provide couple scholarships for the students to come over here on that, and we also have been providing a scholarship to a Chinese student here in Portland that's graduating to go on to college. So that's basically what we've been doing for the last 28, 29 years.
It's a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Now we welcome President Alan Ellis.
This is Portland Khabarovsk Sister City Association, and 28 years ago, during Glasnost and Perestroika, when Gorbachev was in charge, and there was an expansion of freedom of expression and also artistic expression. There was an introduction of entrepreneurship, and there was the Moscow summit, which had Reagan and Gorbachev coming together, and as a result of that agreement, cities in the Soviet Union and in the United States were encouraged to form sister city relationships. Portland chose Khabarovsk after searching around because there are a lot of parallels. Khabarovsk is located in the Russian Far East, right above Manchuria. It has two rivers that come together in an inland port. It has lots of beautiful parks. It has a forest surrounding it. And so as a result, especially of Mayor Bud Clark and Commissioner Mike Lindbergh, the relationship was established. And through thick and thin, the roller coaster ride that has been our relationship with Russia over the years, Soviet Union and Russia, the sister city relationship has held steady, very cordial, and to this day, despite the problems between our two countries, is just, I think, a paragon of hospitality and mutual communication, respect, etc. This year, 2 years ago, we had a delegation here from Khabarovsk. That was at the height of the Crimean and Ukrainian crisis, and yet we sent a delegation over. They sent one over to us. We've had a lot of great exchanges over the years. Of course, the Commissioner Fish remembers the Jazz Bridge Exchange, where we had jazz groups, jazz blues groups coming back and forth. And this year we've tried to emphasize goodwill ambassadorship again, especially because relations are kind of rocky between our two countries. We just had the group from Franklin High School return earlier in the month from a very successful exchange with Gymnasium number 5 there. We just had a band, 3 for Silver, very popular Portland band, come return from a tour of the Russian Far East. They represented Portland at the Day of the City Festival, which is like our Rose Festival, and they performed. And then the consulate, U.S. consulate in Vladivostok, took an interest in this project, and we were procured a grant that allowed the group to tour another week. So this has been a great year for goodwill ambassadorship. And in Portland, we're looking forward to reaching out to the 90 to 100,000 Russian speakers in the Portland, Vancouver area. We have a good relationship with Kachka Restaurant, and we do things with them. And so we hope that the last commissioner to visit Khabarovsk was Gretchen Kafori. She went to an International Women's Conference there back in the 90s. And we haven't had a mayor visit since Mayor Clark. So we're hoping to interest some of you, perhaps the new mayor, to go to Khabarovsk. And it would mean a tremendous amount to them and do wonders for our relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Thanks for joining us. And now I'll introduce President Paul Sibley.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your time and attention. I know atop the budget that this is impressive that you're able to hear us. I'm here on behalf of Mutare in Portland, and Mutare is a city in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe lies to the north of South Africa, just so you know the geographics involved. And we have existed as a sister city for over 25 years, primarily humanitarian in focus. We have 4 entities for whom we raise funds here in Portland. They are a school with HIV and AIDS-related orphans. They are a school for the deaf, a hospice, and an animal welfare organization, all in Mutare. Mutare is a city about the size of Portland. It's known for its tourism, agriculture, and forestry, and some very difficult economic times and political issues there. We have, over the past 10 years of our 25-year history, raised about $100,000 for these humanitarian purposes. Primarily, we are have been an all-volunteer organization. We are at present 100% volunteer. So we have been successful in building a clinic where there was no health care in an outlying area of Mutare, and we have funded school fees. We've created programs to reduce some of the stigma on deaf children in Zimbabwe, a number of activities that we've conducted over the years. But focusing on where we will grow in the future, our two primary concerns are gaining corporate donations here in the Portland area from organizations such as Nike, which does sponsor Zimbabwean athletes. And of course, individual donations are critical for the success of our organization. We'll also spend a great deal of our time soliciting volunteers, because an organization that is primarily or 100% all volunteer only lasts based on the number of volunteers it can drum up on a regular basis. So we hope that you all will talk up Mutare and amongst friends of yours that do volunteer or that want to volunteer, or your connections in the corporate arena. That would be much appreciated. And finally, I want to thank Commissioner Fritz, who has been to a number of our events, World AIDS Day dinners that we've had over the years, time after time, and thank you. We know that you all have lives, hopefully, after the time of work hours, and to give up your time to come to our events is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to introduce President Michael Bacon, who, in addition to leading the Sapporo Sister City Association, is my next-door neighbor. Michael, welcome.
市長様、議員様、ポートランド姉妹都市協会、の会長をしておるマイケル・ベイコンと申します。この1年間の簡単な報告をさせていただきます。It says foreign language up there. I wanted to see what it would do. As I'm sure most of you know, the sister city relationship between Sapporo, Japan, and Portland is one of the longest standing sister city relationships in the U.S., beginning in 1959 and continuing with regular, plentiful, and meaningful exchanges that have built an incredibly strong bond of friendship between our two cities. Both Portland and Sapporo share common reputations as being highly livable and vibrant cities that attract many visitors and new citizens every year. Not sure where the rankings are this year, but both cities fall into the most livable cities in their respective countries, and I'm sure in the world. Clean air, clean water, abundant local produce and beer, a strong culinary culture, great access to the outdoors, beautiful gardens and parks, and mass transit are among the many aspects of the two cities that result in this recognition. Please allow me to highlight a number of the association's activities this past year that may illustrate our highly livable cities and the strong bond between our two communities. Both Sapporo and Portland recognize that investment in our youth as critical to the longevity of our relationship and, of course, the prosperity and vibrance of our cities. Over the past 5 to 6 years, we have established annual youth exchanges that leverages a partnership with the Japanese Immersion Program in Portland Public Schools to send a delegation of advanced level speakers and writers of the Japanese language from Grant High School to Sapporo for an intensive summer institute that involves attending some of the Sapporo City high schools to really immerse themselves. The themes of that institute: jiritsu, independence; gaman, to endure; and kensong, which means humble, or showing humility, something that many times we as Americans can learn well from the Japanese. In turn, each spring in March, Sapporo sends a delegation of 2 representatives from each of their 8 city high schools to Portland to spend a week living and going to school in Portland. Meeting Mayor Hales, or one of our commissioners, and I believe it was this year, it was Commissioner Fritz, is always a highlight of their visit, and we are incredibly thankful for the time that you've taken to meet and greet our junior ambassadors from across the Pacific Ocean. As a professional educator working in PPS, my focus, of course, is on our youth, but in my experience in working in education in Japan, I greatly admired the fact that the school board office in all cities in Japan actually functioned as an integral part of city government, not as a separate one, and that the responsibility of that department was not just K-12, but rather education was something that needed to be supported from birth to death, making a community of lifelong learners. Therefore, adult exchange is indeed a big part of our activities as well. Every year, we have athletes from Sapporo who participate in the Portland Marathon, opportunities to learn about and, of course, drink Portland microbrews and continue to grow in Sapporo. This past year, we began a new event and fundraiser that features izakaya foods prepared using local Oregon ingredients such as Oregon albacore tuna and Chinook salmon, coupled tasting of sakes from northern Japan and specifically the Hokkaido area where Sapporo is. This event raised about $1,200 in scholarships to support our youth exchanges. We will be hosting this event again on July 23rd. Tickets are available, Nick, if you want to come, or all of any of you. I'm sure it just goes without saying that cultural exchanges have and always been a major part of our endeavors. This year we continued our collaboration with the Northwest Film Center in offering the Sapporo Shorts Film Festival. We invited an origami master to teach the ancient craft to 60 people while eating Japanese curry rice at our local kare restaurant on the corner of 10th and Morrison. We also supported the PSU's production of probably the most well-known kabuki theater show called 47 Samurai, a classic tale of revenge by sponsor, and we sponsored that as a members' night. Finally, we continue our 19th year of sending a snow team to Sapporo in the annual Sapporo Snow Festival to compete. This year's sculpture, as you can see in the slide, was a bouquet of roses. This exchange would not be possible without the tremendous support of a number of companies and individuals, including Columbia Sportswear, Taiheiyo Cement, and Sapporo Beer. We are also excited to announce a new relationship with the Pacific Northwest College of Art that takes our participation in this annual competition in a new direction. We are collaborating with the PNCA to select the next snow team through a design competition this fall, and the winners of which will go to Sapporo in February 2017 under the guidance of a PNCA professor to compete as our 20th year team. Thanks for allowing me to highlight the endeavors of our association as we join and continue to build Portland as a livable and vibrant city. I would like to recognize the incredible efforts of my fellow board members and our partners in Sapporo. The relationship thrives because of the talents, hard work, and dedication of many.
Michael, thank you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that a highlight for me was a few years ago when I subbed in for the mayor at a dinner with the mayor of Sapporo who was visiting. We had dinner at the Japanese Garden, and he regaled us with his experience listening to Leonard Bernstein, who performed in the Isamu Noguchi Park in the heart of Sapporo. It was surreal, and I believe you were translating, yes. So thank you. We now welcome President Jonathan Cooley.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to all the commissioners for taking your time today. Lady Hales for her earlier speech and contributions. Suzhou is often dubbed the Venice of China. As Lady Hales will attest, even though Mayor Hales is not here, she spent her honeymoon there and did find it a beautiful city. It's the 5th largest economic zone in China, which is a big deal. It's about 10 million people, and it's located about 2.5 hours drive northeast of Shanghai, or about a 30 to 40 minute high-speed bullet train ride. So I always take the bullet train. To move on. Hello? One more? There. So this year we had a special event. The Simon Benson Bubblers, which are famous in Portland and all over town, was donated to the city of Suzhou by the Water Board and the city of Portland. We were joined by Hector.
Just to be clear, by the city of Portland, although the Water Bureau was very pleased to make it available. Commissioner, Mayor Hales was very scrupulous, and the general fund picked up the entire cost with the support of the council.
Correct. And the Suzhou sister city arranged for transportation to an installation in Suzhou, China. So in 2016, it was donated in 15 with the award given at that time. We actually saw it installed and had a dedication opening ceremony, and the city received through Hector Miramontes a recognition award for that, with the Director Xu, his equal as an international coordinator for Suzhou. We continue the 3 legs of our sister city. It's education, it's cultural, and it's business development. In the educational experience, we have 10 cities, typically middle schools, but also kindergartens and elementary schools that participate in a student exchange. We had approximately 100 students here this year. We recently sent a delegation of 10 students from here. They spent 3 to 4 weeks in Suzhou visiting other schools. This year, the board has started a new effort, forming a committee to move that same concept to higher ed. And we've been able to negotiate a relationship with Suzhou University, also known as SUDA, in Suzhou, to take students from Portland colleges and universities to Suzhou for education in marketing and corporate finance and healthcare in China by Chinese professors, but given in English, and to bring students here. And so that's our new effort. It'll take more than a year probably to effect that, but we're beginning now to contact the various schools to do that. The second leg is cultural exchanges. We've had a number of activities over the last 12 to 24 months. We had a calligraphy exhibit here. We participated in World Friendship Day. We have student performances both here and in China. And we are a great supporter of Lansu Gardens, who joined us on the delegation to China to review getting some craftsmen here to continue to improve and renovate the Chinese garden. That's our home, away from home. The third leg is the economic development, and we're investigating a shared database between the businesses of Suzhou and Portland, which will be in Chinese and in English for a business exchange of projects. The second one is medical tourism. We've arranged for people from Portland to meet on we're holding a conference, State of Oregon plus this consulting firms are holding a medical tourism event here in Portland and in Seattle, and she's actually in China now working on that. We introduced her to the people in Suzhou to continue that concept of medical exchange or tourism, which is becoming quite popular. Finally, senior living is the last area that we've begun to expand into. It's a growing industry in China. What they really need is management. Portland has management. So that pretty well covers us. We have our highlights of the year and our major fundraiser of the year, June 23rd. We're hoping one or all of the commissioners will join us there. You'll be more than welcome. We've invited a delegation from Suzhou. We're still waiting to hear. They may not be able to make it given the changes in the Chinese government of recent times. But anyway, I want to thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Next, we'll recognize President Catherine Morrow.
Good afternoon. This week, during Rose Festival Week, the Portland Ulsan Korean Sister City Association is honored to host a 6-member delegation from the city of Ulsan. This is actually a follow-up visit from our friends in Ulsan to a delegation that came last November, right before Thanksgiving. And at that point, they initiated conversations about planning for the 30th anniversary of the relationship between our two cities, which will take place next year. With me here today in this meeting, we have 4 members of the 6-person delegation who are present, 2 of them at the table today. To my far right is Ms. Mi Kyung Kim, the Director of International Relations and Trade. She is sitting next to her interpreter, and they will be speaking a little bit later. And to my immediate right is Mr. Sang-gu Lee, who is the Director of their Greenery and Parks Program. Tomorrow, we're looking forward to talking with the Portland Parks and Bureau to talk about relations between our 2 parks programs. Today, the city of Ulsan is completely transformed from what it was 29 years ago when Portland and Ulsan established its sister city relations. Recently, the city of Ulsan has produced a new video about their city, which unfortunately, due to the short time today, we're unable to show it at the city council meeting. However, it will soon be posted to our website, to the association's website, and we encourage the council, the mayor, and others in Portland community to take a look at the new transformed city of Ulsan. Our website, a little commercial here, www.portlandulsan.org. Over the past 20 years, our cities have enjoyed lots of educational and cultural exchange. And the city of Ulsan has actually learned quite a bit from us. They have a rose garden modeled after ours. They also have a rose festival modeled similarly to ours. They have a beautiful, clean river and green space, which resembles our Willamette River. So many, many similarities and things that they have been inspired by Portland to introduce to their city. In preparation for commemorating the 30th anniversary of our sister city relations, plans are now underway to expand our collaborative activities beyond education and culture. Activities which are being discussed this week particularly include exchanges with business, trade, economic development, tourism, sports, and linkages between the parks in both of our cities, especially our 2 rose gardens. Additionally, next year we hope to take at least 1, if not 2, or maybe 3 Portland delegations to Ulsan to experience their festivals, their parks, and the wonders that their city has to offer. I'd like to now invite Director Kim to say a few things.
Welcome.
존경하는 의원님, 의원님들 앞에서 울산을 소개하게 되어서 매우 기쁩니다.
I'm very honored to be here today to speak behalf of Ulsan Metropolitan City.
그리고 항상 울산 자매도시위원회에 아낌없는 지원을 해주셔서 시장님을 대신해서 감사의 말씀드립니다.
I also like to thank behalf of a city mayor, Ulsan City Mayor, that thank you so much for all your support for last 30 years.
내년이면 포틀랜드시와 울산이 자매도시에 맺은 지 30년이 되고 또 울산이 광역시가 된 지 20주년이 되는 해입니다.
Next year is we had our sister city with the Portland City for 30 years, and also Ulsan City become metropolitan city for 20 years.
그래서 울산시와 포틀랜드시 간의 기념 사업을 하고자 합니다.
That is why we like to do some type of commemoration between Ulsan City and Portland City.
예를 들자면 각 도시에 있는 장미 정원에 각 도시의 장미 정원을 만들고 싶습니다.
We would like to create a sister city rose garden. For example, creating a rose garden in Ulsan and name as Portland Rose Garden. And also, we would love it if it's possible for Portland City to create a rose garden and named Ulsan Rose Garden.
또 다른 예로서는 각 도시의 이름을 가진 길을 만들고자 합니다.
Also, we like to name the street, name the road. It's kind of funny that in Korea, ro means road in English. So we like to create a Portland Ro, which is Portland Street. And if possible, we would also like to have in Portland City creating name Ulsan Road or Avenue or Street.
많은
Have the Transportation and Parks Commissioners here. We should have this worked out by,
Sure, we'll be happy to.
Amanda and Steve, take until 5 o'clock and work out those details, and we'll report back.
많은 논의가 필요할 것 같은데 적극적으로 협조해 주시기를 건의드립니다.
I know it's not simple to make this kind of decision right away, but I really appreciate take some time to think about this to make it happen.
Madam Council Member, thank you for your suggestion. Here in Portland, it's very difficult to rename streets, especially.
이름을 다시 만들기 힘들겠습니다.
마지막으로 내년에 꼭 울산에 한번 방문해서 울산의 아름다운 모습을 보시기를 기원합니다.
If possible, please come and visit Ulsan Metropolitan City next year.
Thank you. You honor us with your presence, and we also understand you just flew in. Is that correct?
Yes, this
So
morning.
So you're here despite the jet lag. So thank you.
이렇게
Thank you so
퀴즈하시는데
much.
와주셔서 감사합니다.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our final presenter is Greg Raceman from Utrecht,
Yes.
which I hope to visit soon.
Yeah, let's definitely make that happen. So,
Welcome, Mr. President.
why, thank you, Mr. Counselor. So I really appreciate the time today. We've been continuing to work on a relationship with the city of Utrecht, the Netherlands. Portland and Utrecht have a lot in common. Culturally, it really feels like home being there. in a really wonderful way. Both cities, of course, have a lot of interest in sustainability and bicycles, and they're doing a lot on that front. They've got a huge bicycle share. It's top 10 in the world, and just right now are finishing redeveloping their central train station, which will include parking garages for 42,000 bicycles as part of the facility. Yes, I'm throwing down the gauntlet, Commissioner Fish, as it happened earlier with China. So anyway, they're also really a center in Europe for equity and human rights. They actually have a center there that's recognized by the European Union that has been great. The other thing that's been happening is a lot of local manufacturing. So Portland Made now has its first Utrecht product on the shelves. It's called Damn Good Soap. They're working on bringing some more products, and we've been having a number of really productive meetings about bringing Portland products to Utrecht to share our small manufacturers' goods with each other and start to really grow that relationship. So it's nice to have a good foot in. With beer, turns out I'm the third sister city that's going to mention beer today. Portland, as you might know, has the most breweries of any city in the world, and we're sitting in one of the top 3 hop-producing regions in the world. And so our beer culture is really mature and important, and so we've been doing a lot of work with the Dutch beer market as it's been maturing. This will be the 3rd year that we have a delegation of Dutch beer brewers coming to Portland for the Oregon Brewers Festival. They get their own tent with good exposure there, and then do a lot of collaboration brewing with Portland brewers, so they're learning from each other. On August 2nd, there's actually going to be an event at Base Camp Brewing where beer that was brewed together last year, both at Base Camp and at Deschutes Brewery, will be shared as a fun celebration. I had the distinct honor of joining the Oregon Brewers Festival in September, going to the Netherlands because we are working on bringing the Oregon Brewers Festival to the Netherlands. We have a lot of the pieces in place and think we'll be potentially doing it in 2017. So this delegation that's coming to town in July will be doing a lot of work together and trying to get us really lined up to put all the pieces together. But it's looking good. We have a venue. We've met with the city of Utrecht. The brewers are on board. Oregon Brew Festival is doing a really yeoman's job of helping their young businesses launch a pretty big piece of Portland there. Sitting with the city of Utrecht, the Oregon Brewers Festival has about a $32 million economic benefit to Portland. And so thinking about how do we create that kind of thing in Utrecht would be great. The other thing is we're part of a Portland Dutch Society is the group that we're under. So it's all of the Dutch things in Portland, cultural and business and educational, all those things. So the other thing that we do every year is 2 very important Dutch celebrations. In April, we have King's Day, and at Oaks Park, at about 500 people, and eat herring and other Dutch cuisine, and listen to Dutch music and dance, and it's really great. And then in December, we have Sinterklaas, which is the Dutch Christmas celebration. It's a celebration for children, and everyone loves it when Sinterklaas comes out and sings and dances again. So it's been a really great relationship. We're continuing to build it, and a lot of productive things are happening.
Thanks very much. Thanks for an excellent presentation. So officially, our next action is to accept a report. So we'll take that up in a second, but there's 2 honored guests I would like to ask to stand to be recognized. The first is Nancy Hales. Nancy, would you please stand? And Nancy spoke earlier. And I saw Karen Hansen. She may have left, but Tom Potter's wife was here. Let's give her a round of applause and acknowledgement. Hector, thank you for your great work in organizing this. To those of you who did not speak, thank you for joining us for this event. And I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Second. The motion has been seconded. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Saltzman,
Well, thank you to all of our sister cities, and welcome to Portland once again. It's good to have these good relations, and it's always good to get a nice update on what's going on in your cities. And I hope you have a great few days here in Portland. Thank you. Aye.
Novick.
It's always wonderful to hear what's going on with all of our sister city relationships and to be reminded of the background behind some of these relationships and when they were established. And I do want to say that, as Commissioner Fritz said, it is difficult to rename a street, but I have noticed some streets around the city that are named after people who I don't think really deserve to have streets named after them. So we might take that issue up. So thanks for the suggestion. Aye.
Fritz.
Thank you, each of you, for your good volunteer work. Thank you for reminding all of us that we are indeed citizens of the world and that there's a lot of different cultures and wonderful cities worldwide. And when the people make connections, that's what makes it real to each of us and to each of the people in Portland, to seeing our friends from the other countries and hearing the stories of the very varied cities that we have sister relationships with. And I particularly like that they're sister relationships, not brother relationships. There's something about the family feeling of this presentation every year, and I very much appreciate everybody being here, and particularly the Royal Rosarians for continuing to be our official greeters and ambassadors and great partners with our Office of Government Relations, and just everybody who's here. Thank you very much. Aye.
Fish.
So Hector and everyone on your team, thank you for the work you do. Echo what Commissioner Fritz said about the Rosarians and our friends at the Rose Festival. Thank you, Nancy, for the work that you do. And to all 9 of the sister city leaders, the work you're doing is really important. Thank you for continuing to reach out to us, to engage us in your events. Each of us up here has a different passion, and there's different ways we connect with you. And we thank you for doing that, and thank you for representing our city so well on the big stage. With that, I'm pleased to vote aye, and the report is accepted. We'll take a 2-minute break now so we can get the budget folks teed up. Thank you all very much. please read time certain 653, and Andrew, I'm assuming we should read all of them?
It's probably easiest if we read each one and go in order, just because some are resolutions and some are.
So put them all, read them all now? Or do you want to do them in
I
sequence?
think do them in
later?
sequence, yeah.
Okay, so would you please read time certain council item 652?
653,
653.
yes. Conduct a proposed use hearing on state shared revenue.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah, so,
Welcome.
yeah, at this point, Commissioner, we would open the hearing on the state shared revenue.
And I will read a script that you've handed me that has been blown up for the occasion. This hearing is being held by the City Council of Portland, Oregon, in compliance with the provisions of the State Revenue Sharing Regulations, ORS 221.770. It is to allow citizens to comment on the proposed use of these funds in conjunction with the annual budget process as proposed for council adoption. The fiscal year 2016-2017 budget anticipates receipts totaling $16,008,397 from state revenue sharing under ORS 221.770. As has been the case in prior years, it is proposed that this revenue be allocated in equal parts to support fire prevention and police patrol services. Is there anyone here today who wishes to be heard on this subject? Carla, has anyone signed up on this subject?
No one signed up on 653.
Hearing none, I will now close the hearing scheduled to discuss proposed uses of the shared revenue, of state shared revenue. I am now closing this hearing. Andrew?
So, and at this point now, there's a resolution around state shared revenue, state shared revenue.
Carla, would you please call the roll?
Or actually, I think we need to read the resolution.
Right.
Yeah.
We're on 654.
Carla, please read council item 654. I'll try to get this right at some point.
Certify that certain services are provided by the city to establish eligibility for state shared revenues.
Director Scott.
And this resolution simply does what it says, and it certifies to the state that we do meet those eligibility requirements.
Resolution is before us. Does anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, Carla, please call the roll.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Fish.
Aye. The resolution passes. Carla, please read council item 655.
Approve accepting funds from the state of Oregon under the State Revenue Sharing Program for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016 and ending June 30, 2017.
Director Scott.
And this ordinance, again, required under state law, is that we must put forward to say that we are in fact accepting the state shared revenue that we've just held a hearing on.
Does anyone wish to be heard on this ordinance? Carla, has anyone signed up?
I did not have a sign-up sheet for this one.
Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. Carla, please call the roll.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Fish.
Aye. The ordinance passes. Carla, please read council item 656.
Update fund statements of purpose for various city funds.
Director Scott.
So this ordinance updates fund statements of purpose, and all funds in the city have statements of purpose that describe what the fund does, who's the managing bureau, where the revenue comes from, what the contingency and reserve requirements are, and finally the disposition of funds. And so this is a relatively new process we're doing as part of the budget process, but we update these when they need updating. What you have in front of you then are the changes that were brought forward by the bureaus or by the city budget office. And there is an amendment to this particular ordinance, and it's should be the first amendment on your list that adds a couple of additional fund statement changes around the health insurance operating fund and the hydroelectric power bond redemption fund.
So we have the amendment before us, or it's in our packet.
And so we would need a motion and a second to add those additional funds to this ordinance.
They are part of our packet. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment?
So moved. Second.
To staff, the changes, the amendments are actually highlighted in our document, and so this looks like more housekeeping than substance.
Yeah, that's right, and I'm happy to walk through.
I don't think it's necessary. I just want to call that out. Colleagues, any questions? Does anyone wish to be heard on this matter? Carla, would you please call the roll?
This is on the motion.
6-5.
This is on the amendment.
Excuse me.
Correct.
This is on the amendment.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Fish.
Aye, the amendment passes. And now we'll vote on the ordinance as amended. Please call the roll.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Fish.
Aye. Okay, Carla, would you please read Council Item 657?
Adopt the annual budget of the city and establish appropriations for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016 and ending June 30, 2017.
Director Scott, and I understand we have some amendments to consider.
We do. And with that, all of that fun preliminary work out of the way, this is really the main ordinance today. Following this, we will also have the tax levy, which is also very important. So I will briefly walk through what is in your change packet, and then there are some amendments for discussion today as well. Just as a reminder, the total budget that we will be adopting is $4.3 billion. The total general fund this year is $602 million, of which $501 million of that is discretionary. And the total FTE in this adopted budget will be 3,065. You're all familiar with this as we've gone through the entire process, but the additional investments, I think it's worth just reminding folks that there is an additional over $30 million in money being invested in housing and homelessness, $11.5 million in city infrastructure, close to $7 million in public safety, and $4.5 million of parks, among some other key investments in this overall budget. What you have in your packet is what we call the change memo, and this is attachment B. And this walks through line by line and bureau by bureau and fund by fund all of the changes between the approved budget, which you acted on about 3 weeks ago, and the adopted budget, which is what's before you today. I am happy to answer questions about any of those line items, but I'm not going to go through in detail. I do want to point out just a few things out of there that I think are worth noting on the record. So again, this is attachment B in your packet. But I do want to point out that the Bureau of Development Services is adding 13 positions. These were approved in the spring bump, and they are funded with fee revenue, but we are adding those into the adopted budget as well. The overall capital set-aside that we've talked about throughout this budget process, we did have about $181,000 of additional ongoing to add to that, so that the capital set-aside next year will be just under $500,000. So this is, we haven't had a capital set-aside in many, many years in the city, but this money will be available, not in 16-17, but in future years. It's already allocated for specific things in 16-17, but in future years will be available for either existing capital or new capital moving forward. There is a change in the auditor's office budget. There are some reductions in the amount of TriMet revenues expected, as the auditor for the hearings office is going to propose no longer providing those hearing services, and so that money is backfilled with general fund, and as a result, the auditor has agreed to keep the hearings office in her budget. Transportation Operating Fund, Transportation is adding 13 positions as a result of passage of the gas tax, and those will be funded out of those revenues, but that is being added to the transportation budget. And those were the main things that I wanted to point out. Again, I'm happy to answer any other questions about those changes that are in the adopted budget.
Seems pretty straightforward.
I think it is, and with that, we can turn to the amendments, and you should have those in a packet in front of you.
So here's what I'm going to propose. I'd like you to walk us through the amendments. I'm then going to seek a second to have all the amendments placed on the table as a professional courtesy, and then we'll take testimony, and then we'll vote on them separately.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. So the first amendment's already been taken care of as part of the fund statement ordinance. The second amendment, this is a motion to transfer funding for the Equitable Contracting and Purchasing Commission from the Office of Management and Finance to the Office of Equity and Human Rights. So that transfers $25,000 of ongoing general fund resources from OMF to OEHR for the administration of the Equitable Contracting and Purchasing Commission. The third amendment on your list is a motion to transfer funding for the B Corp program from PDC to the Office of the Mayor. There was $75,000 in the approved budget. This just shifts that from PDC to the Mayor's office as they'll be administering that program. Amendment number 4 is a motion to increase funding in the Office of the City Auditor to implement the recently passed political consultant registration and reporting software. So that allocates $9,488 of one-time general fund resources to the City Auditor to move forward, actually for an interagency agreement with OMF to move forward with that political consultant registration. The funding source for that addition will be one-time reduction to general fund contingency. The next appropriation, or the next amendment, is a motion to amend Attachment D to add a budget note about special appropriations in last Thursday. The budget note says that the adopted budget allocates $30,000 in ongoing general fund resources to support the last Thursday event. Fiscal oversight of this program will be provided by the Administrator of Special Appropriations, not the Regional Arts and Culture Council. And then the last amendment is a motion to increase funding in the Portland Housing Bureau for homeless services. And this would increase intergovernmental revenues in the Portland Housing Bureau, the Home Grant Fund, by $321,634 to support homeless services. The federal grant funds have been awarded to the city and must be appropriated in the budget to be available for expenditure on July 1st.
So Andrew, let me just be clear. There are a total of 6 amendments.
Yes.
And we have the draft language, including the proposed changes to the health insurance operating fund.
And I should actually say there are, we have already adopted that with the fund statement. So there are 5 additional amendments.
So three amendments. So I have a total of 6 here.
Total of 6, and number 1 was already taken care of in the ordinance that you just passed 5 minutes ago.
So it's amendments
2 through 6.
Hales 2, 3, Fish 4, 5, and Saltzman 6. All right. Do I have I'll move those amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the amendments are now on the table. Carla, do we need a vote, or can we just take testimony at this point?
We should take testimony. Ask for testimony.
I believe we can take testimony at this point.
Okay. So we now have amendments to the adopted budget on the table. Does anyone wish to be heard on any of these amendments? Carla, did anyone sign up to testify?
No one signed up.
Council colleagues, any discussion before we take it to a vote?
I just had one question. Who is the Administrator of Special Appropriations?
Moving forward into next year, the Office of Management and Finance will be administering special appropriations.
Okay, thank you.
I do want to note that that budget note, the original proposed budget and approved budget would have had RAC sort of administering and managing last Thursday. This budget note says that RAC will not be doing it, and it says that fiscal oversight will be provided by the Administrator of Special Appropriations. It does leave unresolved program oversight.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote on the amendments. Carla, please call the roll.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Fish.
Aye. Andrew, any final words before we adopt the budget as amended?
I have nothing further.
Carla, would you please call the roll?
Saltzman,
Well, I'd like to thank everybody in the Budget Office and throughout the city who helped put together this budget, and including my colleagues here on the council and Mayor Hales as well. So great job, everybody. Aye.
Novick,
This is a budget that, among other things, makes historic investments in housing and homeless services, and also begins to address the staffing issues in the Bureau of Emergency Communications by authorizing money for more staff for a bureau that is really overworked and understaffed. So I really appreciate the fact that we're able to do that. So those are just a couple of the examples of how this budget is very good for the city of Portland, and we appreciate the contribution of the taxpayers of all kinds that contributed to it, which we'll address in the next item. Aye.
Fritz.
Well, first, thank you to the City Budget Office, the independent City Budget Office, for all of your work on crafting the process that has worked out so well so that everybody felt heard and was heard, and that we made multiple changes in the budget in response to community testimony. It's unfortunate that Mayor Hales is off trying to get us another $40 million for next year's budget right now, because he deserves a lot of the credit for crafting a bold budget that he can still be proud of, and for continuing to work with the council when it was clear that there wasn't majority support for a large increase in funding for senior and retired police officers. And I thank my colleagues and their staffs for working collaboratively to come up with an alternative that is prudent and responsible, and it was done according to state budget law, so that the members of the council didn't discuss the budget after we became the budget committee. I particularly thank Mike Abate, the Parks Director, and the Parks staff, who had one of the most tricky parts of the budget with figuring out how to make or propose nearly $1 million worth of cuts at the same time as working with our partners in Laborers 483 to make sure that over 100 of our valued parks workers are now going to be paid union wages with benefits. And this, to me, is one of the most satisfying parts of this budget, that we're starting to recover not just from the recession, but from Measure 5, because it's since 1990 that parks workers in particular have been not treated as fairly as some other city workers, and we're starting to correct that. So thank you to my colleagues for agreeing to do that, including continuing to fund the preschool programs, Selwood Community Center, Buckman Pool, things that the community said that they were most invested in. Thank you for funding the New Portlanders program and the Parks for New Portlanders in Office of Neighborhood Involvement and Parks, respectively. Thanks to Director Amalia Alarcon-Damaris and the great staff in the Office of Neighborhood Involvement, but also the 50-some people in our budget committee who met every week for months to come up with our proposal, which is starting to get to what do we actually need to fund a constructive 21st century neighborhood and community involvement system that recognizes we have people speaking 100 languages in our community, and every one of them has a right to be involved in decision making. Thanks to Tim Crail and all of my staff. I particularly want to thank Jasmine Wadsworth, who is in her final week of employment with me. She has gotten a position with the now presumptive Democratic nominee, working in a battleground state. So I'm pretty excited about her elevation to hopefully the highest power in the land, and also her diligent work along with the rest of my staff in making sure that all of my materials for both the budget and the comprehensive plan and everything else are completely in order. So just some of the other highlights, the arbitration decision is a $4.3 million investment, background investigators at $1.8 million, which will mean that we'll be able to interview more candidates and hopefully start restoring ranks to the police bureau. As Commissioner Novick mentioned, the Office of Emergency Communications, those folks work extremely hard, and I am looking forward to their new bargaining package coming to council as well. We're funding the digital equity plan with $142,000. Much needed administrative staff in the Office of Neighborhood Involvement. Sometimes those folks don't get the credit that they deserve for making everything else tick so well. $8.5 million for capital projects in transportation, parks, and emergency preparedness, thanks to our 50% set-aside council policy, which I continue to believe is a very sound policy. That's including $3.8 million for parks repairs and $3.3 million for transportation needs, in addition to the gas tax money, which Commissioner Novick worked so hard to bring into the city. And as he mentioned, over $28 million for housing and houselessness, recognizing this council is aware of and intent on helping our most vulnerable citizens, as well as many of those in the middle income brackets who are getting priced out of their homes. Again, thanks to everybody for this long and very necessary process, and we'll get started again in just a few months. Aye.
Fish.
Today always feels a little anticlimactic because we've been working at this for so long, and the process began in the fall with budget guidance and a lot of hard work at the Bureau level, then extensive public hearings, lots of work here at Council, and then the collective work of the Budget Committee shaping a budget, and then a final hearing, and now the final vote. And all the important things have been said. I just want to add a couple of comments. Andrew, you and your team do a wonderful job, and I think when we look back someday at structural changes in our government, creating an independent budget office, which was something Commissioner Fritz felt very strongly about, was an extremely important change, structural change. And I think it's had a very positive impact on our process. and you and the people who work with you go above and beyond to provide the staff support to the council to do the budget process. So thanks to everybody on your team. I also want to thank all the folks that I have the honor of working with at our utilities. And, you know, I was keeping track this year of the number of people who came to a public forum to testify about anything relating to our utilities. So capital spending, proposed rate increases, anything on your mind. And it turns out a total of one person throughout our entire budget process came and testified publicly one way or another about the business of our utilities. I've been on this council long enough to remember when it was a slightly different kind of level of participation by the public, and the issues were a little more charged. And I think it largely reflects not just the conscious decisions of this council about how we spend ratepayer money and the policy direction that we've given the bureaus, but the tremendous work of the men and women who work for our public utilities. And I could not be prouder of what they're doing for our city, and a special thanks to the directors and the senior staff and the people in the front lines delivering great services to the public at a fair price. The Citizen Budget Committee members, some of whom are here, many that are not, that join us and sometimes ask the really great questions that some of us take for granted. At the budget forums, we want to thank them. All the people that came out to our public forums and testified. One of the best parts of our job is when we get to have that direct interaction with people. And I hope, and Commissioner Fritz has mentioned this in the past, I hope that when people see a direct connection between their advocacy and budget choices, I hope people understand that this process really is open and transparent and has meaning, because we make changes in our budget based on what we hear from the public. And so that part is very important. This is the second year in which we've had the luxury of carving up substantial surplus. And it will not continue forever. We cannot anticipate blue skies forever. But it's the second year in which the council has made a significant investment in what it thought was the most compelling issue of the moment. Last year, it was transportation. And the mayor and Commissioner Novick led the council in making substantial new investments in basic infrastructure. This year, it's housing and homelessness. And I'm proud, as my colleagues have all said, to be on a council which has said, we're going to prioritize discretionary money to address this crisis on our streets. And I'm proud of the choices we've made operating within the constraints of the surplus that we had to spend. And I also want to say that since ultimately we as a budget committee are responsible for the budget, I'm proud of the way the council came together to craft a budget that could get majority support. Finally, I want to thank the people that I get to work with every day, my Chief of Staff, Sonia Schmansky, Jim Blackwood, Liam Frost, Jamie Dunphy, all the folks in my office who work so hard and provide me with the materials that I need to go through this process. This is a good budget, and we're all hoping, and our fingers are crossed, that the economy continues to grow, but it may not. But as long as we have the luxury of surplus, I think we're making the right investments in things that are going to make a difference in people's lives, and that's why I'm proud to support this budget. Aye. Okay, we have one more item to take care of, Mr. Director?
Correct.
658,
Please.
approve levying taxes for the city for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016 and ending June 30, 2017.
This ordinance is aptly titled.
So let me just be clear. Anybody that votes for 657 but votes against 658, we would say of them that they are people that want to go to heaven but don't want to die. Is that fair? Is that a fair characterization? Okay. So does anyone wish to be heard on 658? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Novick?
I think I quote him every year, and I don't know if I can approve of what Commissioner Fish already said, actually, about going to heaven and dying, but Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. said, taxes are the price we pay for civilization. If we didn't have taxes, we wouldn't have a police force, we wouldn't have firefighters, we wouldn't have 911 dispatchers, we wouldn't have parks, we wouldn't have streets. If there was a version of someday I want some public-spirited organization to do a version of It's a Wonderful Life where the Jimmy Stewart character imagines what the world would be without taxes and then tries to live in that world. And so I bet if any filmmakers are watching our broadcast today with a big budget behind them, I invite you to do that. I also want to reiterate my periodic message to Dick Wolf asking that just once on Law and Order, I want the prelude to be in the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate and equally important groups. The police, city employees, generally paid for by property taxes, and the district attorneys, county employees, also generally paid for by property taxes. These are their stories. Aye.
Fritz.
Yeah, taxes pay for services, and it's our job to make sure that we spend the taxpayers' money wisely, spend the ratepayers' money wisely, as Commissioner Fish said, and to help people understand that we do not invent money and we cannot do services without paying for them, except where we're able to get volunteers, and we often can't get enough volunteers. Government can't do it all. Government shouldn't do it all. We rely on our community partners. As Commissioner Novick was imagining a world without taxes, I fear that some at the national level want us to go exactly there, and so I hope we don't find out, because government needs to pay for the services that only government can pay for, and we are still not doing that. We know that we are far behind in our facilities maintenance, in our road repairs, in our safety projects, in our housing assistance. There's a lot still that we have not done in this budget. We've done as much as we can, and I believe we've done the best we can with what we have available. And we all need to look at what else can we do. Aye.
Fish.
Aye. Final word, Andrew?
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. We're going to take a 2-minute break and then shift into the next item. Thank you very much. Carlo. discussion. Carla, would you please read the next item?
Item 646, adopt and authorize the submission of the 2016-2020 Consolidated Plan and the fiscal year 2016-2017 Action Plan application for the Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership, Emergency Solutions Grant, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS programs to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our city's fifth five-year consolidated plan for federal entitlement funds. And this five-year plan through 2020 shows how some important federal funds we have are going to be invested in our community. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to the stellar panel we have here. Kim McCarty from the Housing Bureau, Kurt Krieger, the Director, and Matthew Shabold, our Equity and Policy Director. I think, Kim, you're going to walk us through?
Kim's the primary presenter, but just as a framing of this, you mentioned the historic investments in housing and homelessness, and these resources are an essential part of our successful strategy moving forward. The Consolidated Plan is a federally required plan that governs the use of all resources we receive in the form of community development block grant funds, home investment partnership dollars, housing for people with AIDS, and other emergency shelter grant programs. And Kim McCarty prepares not only the consolidated plan, but also our fair housing plan, and there's quite a lot of interplay between those. So she will summarize very quickly the contents of the plan.
Great.
Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. So my name is Kim McCarty. I'm with the Housing Bureau. I work on the consolidated plan and our fair housing plan. And as we've stated, this is our five-year plan. So typically we've come with our one-year action plan outlining how we plan to spend our federal resources. This plan gives us the five-year overview along with the one-year action plan. This plan was created as a consortium with the City of Portland, the City of Gresham, and Multnomah County. And we have here today a member of our consortium from the City of Portland, Betty Dominguez from Home Forward.
Betty?
And this plan was couldn't have happened without our continued cooperation and with our partnering jurisdictions and the staff work of our equity policy director, Antoinette Pietka, who did our data analysis for the needs assessment, and Sally Erickson's team that worked on the homelessness sections here that are so important to HUD. So what is the consolidated plan? As I said, it's a five-year plan. It takes into account our changes in demographics, the housing market, the overall economy, and also our available public resources and the community's priorities. I wanted to give you an overview of the process that we took. It was pretty extensive, and it's required by HUD that we first have what we call a needs assessment hearing, and those typically happen in the fall. Then we follow that up with community-based focus groups, and the focus groups this year, because it is a five-year plan, were quite extensive. We met with culturally specific organizations, we met with linguistically specific groups, we did a survey that focused on housing need and fair housing, and then our partner Gresham did a door-to-door survey in Rockwood. In addition to the community participation, it's really important that we link with our community partners. So we had interviews with our service delivery members in Multnomah County, and also interviews with our special interest groups ranging from veterans to disabled seniors. And so to give you a sense of how the planning process will wrap up, we're here today to share with you what's in the plan. Gresham has already done this. Portland is sharing today. Multnomah County will share this with their commission next week. And then we will submit this electronically to HUD as part of our application for the federal entitlement dollars. And as we mentioned, it's really important that to HUD and to us that the community is involved, and that this is all connected to fair housing and making housing an equitable resource for everyone. And this right here is an image of a family that we met with through Home Forward that participated in our fair housing survey. So the plan itself asks that we do a needs assessment and a market analysis, that we create a strategic plan with our community partners, that it be in conjunction and responsive to our citizen participation plan, and that annually that we will update it. And what's important to know is that this plan, when we met with the community and our stakeholders, asks that we identify what are the basic needs. And the basic needs from the community were that we needed affordable housing choice, that we need basic services and homeless prevention and intervention, and community economic development. And the goals that we recommended fall right in line with those needs, that we need to increase affordable housing choices, that we need to reduce homelessness, increase stability for all residents, and improve our infrastructure and facilities and economic opportunities. And that's very much in line with the budget that you've already approved. So this year's annual action plan shows you that those investments are made in those categories. And I'll just go over them briefly. We need to follow the public purpose that's outlined by HUD, that these dollars need to assist low and moderate income households. It needs to eliminate slum and blight and assist with urgent need. And then our emergency solutions grant and housing opportunities for persons with AIDS also needs to address their needs in terms of shelter, rapid rehousing, and supportive services. So what you will see in this 5-year plan is that we're looking at approximately $88 million over a 5-year period with these entitlement funds. The majority is going to new homeownership development, some of it to rehab and preservation, followed by homelessness prevention and economic development. And they will all follow into those 3 goals and needs that I outlined. And then in terms of our CDBG funding, the majority of that is going towards housing redevelopment. Our home funding is going towards also to new affordable housing. And in Gresham and Multnomah County, they're using some of that money for tenant-based rental assistance. Our emergency solutions grant is restricted to emergency housing and shelter. And again, HOPWA funding is restricted to persons with AIDS and their supportive services. So those are the resources that we're working with, and in our action plan, I'm just showing you what you've already decided through the budget, how they will be presented to HUD in terms of these 3 main needs and goals. So first was to increase and preserve affordable housing choice. And the programs under preserving affordable housing choice include housing redevelopment, support of our community-based development organizations, and new affordable housing.
So on that slide,
Yeah.
so you got 2.8 million for new affordable housing. Can you give me a sense of how is that money allocated?
It's allocated through our notice of funding. Every year we do a NOFA process. It can range, I think, we send out that information to our community partners, ask them for proposals, and then the community is invited along with our stakeholders to choose a project. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is that the NOFA, at least the last NOFA in October of 2015, was a super NOFA that included funding within several open urban renewal areas plus federal dollars. And it depended on where the project was physically as to whether or not it was preferred to be funded through tax increment or preferred to be funded through community development block grant. If it's outside of an urban renewal area and it meets the national objectives, and it's compliant with federal standards, then it would likely be a candidate for CDBG. For example, when we've been approached about mobile home park needs outside of urban renewal areas in Cully, You can use CDBG for land acquisition, you can use it for infrastructure improvements. It's a pretty good resource for that purpose. So it would be likely a candidate for that use. The most recent project that was just launched was the Hill Park project in the Lair Hill area that is a CDBG funded project.
And what's the ballpark number of units that one might expect $2.4 million to pay for? Obviously, it would vary a lot depending on the level of affordability, but do we have a sense of, for each $1 million, kind of what the target number of new units would be?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is a good question. I don't have a ballpark in my head. I do know that within the plan that we do create estimates for what that investment will create in terms of anticipated outcomes, and that's what we share with HUD.
And our life-to-date cost of Portland funds per unit is about $100,000 a unit.
So about 10 per million.
Right.
Okay, that's helpful. And then it would be helpful to me each year when you present the next to come back and tell us how many how do we do for the 28 million that we just invested in the city's budget this year? What did we get for that?
Yeah, we'd be really happy to do that. And in fact, we do create a report every year that goes to HUD that outlines those outcomes.
Great, thank you. And then just one final question, since, at least for this phase, since Director Kruger brought up the Cully mobile home place, has there been any progress on that issue?
Yes, Commissioner Salzman's office met yesterday with me, representatives of CASA of Oregon and Oregon Housing Community Services and Metro. The meeting was convened by Speaker Kotek, and we laid out a range of available options. It's my understanding that CASA of Oregon has proffered a purchase offer on the park, and they have received I believe, over 90 days, up to 120 days to conduct due diligence. So they are currently under contract with an owner that's willing to consider selling the park to the residents through CASA of Oregon, and we will assist them along with Metro to hopefully achieve that goal.
Thank you. That's really good news and progress. Obviously not done yet, but I appreciate the update. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Salzman.
Mr. Director, there's a line item in the last slide that has the Section 108 loan repayment, kind of an esoteric item, but it reminds me that one of the last funded projects with Section 108 money, which is essentially an advance against CDBG, was the Brano. When's the opening for the Brano?
It's coming up very soon. I think it's even on my calendar. I'll have to get back to you on that specific point. I also believe that the Hacienda office building was financed with Section 108. So it's currently in use throughout the city. And frankly, it's also a resource for other mobile home parks because to the extent that a mobile home park can support a loan, we could renovate the underlying infrastructure with these funds through the 108 loan. So.
Thank you. Kim?
So the first goal is increasing affordable ownership, and we specifically also invest our federal entitlement dollars in affordable ownership housing.
Why is that the first goal? I was
It's
struck
not-
by that.
It's not, go ahead.
I shouldn't interrupt you, but you just said it's the first goal. Why is it ranked why is it ranked as a first goal?
I should have said that there is no ranking. We did not rank the goals. There are 3 goals. And it's the first that I'm presenting. But also in terms of investment of our entitlement dollars for this projected for this 5-year period in this year, there's a larger investment in new affordable housing than in the other objectives.
New affordable housing could be multifamily rental, but we're talking about home ownership here or both?
We're talking about both.
Is there a change in the investment in affordable home ownership?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, for the purposes of this presentation, I just broke it out so that you could see what kind of resources we're going towards homeownership. And that specifically in our homeownership programs, we offer financial assistance, home repair, and in Gresham and Multnomah County, as being part of the home consortium, their resources are going towards the SAM program and towards counseling, financial counseling, homeownership counseling. And a second goal that for our federal resources is reducing homelessness and increasing stability. And if we break out the resources, the federal resources that are going towards that particular objective, we can see that we're using ESG for emergency shelter and rapid rehousing. We're also investing in HOPWA, and then our CDBG is going towards our fair housing programs.
And the HOPWA money, traditionally, Cascade AIDS Project has been one of our prime subcontractors on that work. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we also are the lead for multiple jurisdictions in the region for those resources. So the third goal is infrastructure, facilities, and economic development. And you can see that CDBG is our main resource. In Portland, we're focusing that on economic opportunities through microenterprise, adult workforce programs, and youth workforce programs. So SEI would be an example. So next steps, so we would submit this application to HUD. They review it for 30 days. And then after the review, then HUD would make would release the appropriation of the entitlements, and we could begin contracting in August.
Excellent presentation, very succinct. Thank you. Colleagues, any further questions? Carla, did anyone sign up?
Do you have a question?
Sorry?
Yes, I do have a question.
Okay, you're a colleague, that's why I
Thank you.
asked.
Yes,
Go ahead.
good. Jumping right. So on page, I really appreciate the detail in here because I've been wondering exactly what do we spend the money on, and I appreciate the explanation. I'm hampered by not having been the housing commissioner. So I'm looking at page 16 of the first year action plan, and I noticed that the administrative costs are pulled out into 3 funding areas: the general fund, the tax increment funds, and the housing investment fund. And together they total $7.9 million. So I'm surprised to see that the general fund portion is so low for just basic staff to do the work. And I'm wondering why that is and what the rest of the general fund money goes to in the Housing Bureau.
Well, I can say that we're extremely efficient. I mean, having come from Fairfax County Redevelopment and Housing Authority, my budget there was smaller, and I had about 150 more staff people in Fairfax than I do here. We also happen to operate a housing authority along with the community development and CDBG programs. We are limited to 15% of the CDBG entitlement for planning and administration. We fall under that level, and there are administrative costs associated with general fund, but we fall well under the prescribed levels.
How much general fund does the Housing Bureau get?
Well, at the present time, nearly all the general fund money is proposed to be transmitted through the Housing Bureau to the joint office because it's nearly all homeless support services. And I can give you a detailed breakdown. I hate to talk about large numbers off the top of my head because it's
Yeah, that would be really helpful. I'd like to know, are we staffing the Housing Bureau appropriately, and are we giving you enough general fund money just for that? You know, the council just approved a budget in which Office of Neighborhood Involvement got 3 positions to do administrative work, and that's entirely appropriate. In fact, probably not enough to do the work there. And so I want to...
Can I just make an observation? The comp plan doesn't actually set the budget for the Bureau, or the comp plan just reports to the federal government how we're allocating the federal funds. The council decides how general fund is allocated. And so, I mean, I think the question's a good one about what's our overhead and staffing. The federal government does not monitor our staffing. We're just reporting how we allocate the monies to achieve the staffing levels that the council has established.
Thank you. I am aware of that. This page in the consolidated plan does call out nearly $8 million in administrative costs. And so I'm just looking at, you know, what money goes where. And so I appreciate the offer to give me a more detailed briefing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Carla, has anyone signed up to testify?
I did not have a sign-up sheet.
Would anyone like to testify on the comprehensive plan? Okay, hearing none. Dan, final word. This goes to a second reading.
Do we need an emergency clause in order to submit this in a timely manner, or?
If we could, that would be appreciated.
Okay. I would move that we add an emergency clause to this.
I'll second that, and for the city attorney, to put an emergency clause, we have to have some compelling reason, which I understand is that this has to be submitted, or has to be finalized, so it can be submitted for public comment and then get to HUD in a timely manner. Is that accurate?
Correct, so that we can put the contracts in place and get the allocation from HUD.
Okay. Would anyone like to be heard? Okay, firstly, we have a first and a second on an emergency clause. Would anyone like to be heard on that item? Seeing none, Carla, would you please call the roll?
Saltzman,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Britt,
Aye.
Fish.
Aye. Okay, and now we'll vote on the ordinance as amended to put an emergency clause on. Carla, please call the roll.
Saltzman,
Well, thank you for this great presentation, and we thank our federal government for providing some important funds. Was it 55 million over 8 years?
About 88 million.
88 million over 5 years. It's a lot of money, and we're going to put it to good use. Aye.
Novick,
Thank you very much for the presentation. Aye.
Ritz.
Thank you. I very much appreciate you sitting through the council meeting yesterday and then coming back again today to give us this detailed explanation. It really does help people to understand how the Housing Bureau works, as well as all the good things that you do. So thank you very much. Aye.
Fish.
I'm very pleased to support this. I will note that I think I have watched or endured almost every debate held on either side of the aisle in the presidential season. And I'm waiting for the first one in which housing is introduced as an issue worthy of debate at the federal level. I will also note that a majority of the candidates for president running in this cycle have said they would abolish the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I would finally observe that while it is wonderful that we get these funds, and we are grateful for them, they are woefully inadequate to meet the national housing needs of this country. And to put it in perspective, the complete budget of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which I think is plus or minus $40 billion, is less than 1/5 of the amount of foregone revenue at the federal government that we willingly relinquish by subsidizing the mortgage and property taxes of people like me who do not need that subsidy. And that, I think, shows some misplaced national priorities. And I'm not picking on the mortgage or property tax deduction, but it seems to me allocating a mere $40 billion for all the housing needs of everyone not currently covered by the market is woefully inadequate. But I thank you for your good work in crafting this plan, and we look forward to your success. Aye. Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break and then shift into the comp plan. Thank you all.
You want them read both together, correct?
Yes, please.
659, adopt new and amended supporting documents for an update of Portland's comprehensive plan, accept report on the Citizen Involvement Committee. And 660, adopt a new comprehensive plan for the city of Portland, Oregon.
Okay, Eric Engstrom, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You and I both have a script, and I understand you're going to walk us through the various steps.
Yeah, I'll start by just reminding the council what is happening with each of these ordinances. Item 659 is the supporting documents ordinance, and it adopts a number of reports and documentation required to fulfill elements of the city's periodic review obligations with the state. As you recall, the comprehensive plan is a state requirement, and we'll be going through an acknowledgement process with them. And this supporting documents ordinance includes a number of things that we'll be passing on to the state to document our compliance with state land use law. This includes a report from the Community Involvement Committee, the revised economic opportunities analysis, a number of maps that are part of the city's buildable lands inventory. We updated a number of the factual maps that go into calculating our land supply. The growth scenario report, which is essentially an alternatives analysis exercise that's part of our comprehensive plan documentation. The citywide system plan, which is the 20-year public facilities plan, and this is the document that the shorter-term 5-year capital improvement plans draw from in the various bureaus. Item 660, the second ordinance, is the actual ordinance that adopts the new comprehensive plan, and it includes a new comprehensive plan policy document, a new land use map to accommodate the 20 years of forecasted growth, a list of significant projects, which is a list of projects that were identified in that public facilities plan that are related to growth. A subset of that is the transportation system project list and the associated financial plan that goes with that. And that ultimately lives in the TSP, which is being adopted with our periodic review requirement. More to come on that in the fall, but the first components are riding with the comprehensive plan adoption in the form of that list and financial plan. Are there any questions about the elements of each ordinance before we move on?
I think you did a good job summarizing that, so let me jump in, because that's what the script tells me to do. Today, colleagues, is the first reading of substitute ordinances for the two items just described by Eric. The original ordinances and exhibits introduced in the fall have been updated to reflect City Council amendments. Staff have prepared findings to document why these actions are consistent with state land use goals and regional policy. The Council has already received testimony regarding the recommended plan and supporting documents and Council amendments. Testimony at this hearing, if any, will be limited to the content of the revised ordinances. The evidentiary record is closed and no new evidence may be submitted. So with that, we have three matters that we need to do, beginning with moving the substitute ordinance with findings and exhibits for item 559. Do I have a motion?
Would so move that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we will vote on that motion to move the substitute ordinance. Carla?
Saltzman?
Aye.
Novick?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Fish?
Aye. Next, we will move the substitute ordinance findings and exhibits for council item number 660, the new comp plan, and we will vote on that motion. Is there a motion?
Moved. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Carla, please call the roll.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Novick?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Fish?
Aye. The substitute is adopted. Finally, we will move to incorporate a minor additional amendment to findings for council item 660 as provided by staff.
And I could briefly just describe that. Carla has distributed a letter from Metro that should be entered as testimony today that reflects their review of the comp plan and its compliance with regional land use requirements. And as part of their review, they noted that they would like a little more detail related to Metro Title VII in the findings, which we have provided in written form to you. And so this motion would incorporate that those findings into the findings for the comp plan. And it's basically citing additional housing policies that are in the new comp plan that are consistent with the Metro functional plan.
And you refer to that as a minor amendment because?
Because it's technical in nature. It's bringing in policies that you've already reviewed and just citing them for Metro so they know where they are.
Okay, well, I need a motion to incorporate that amendment.
Move the amendment.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion, colleagues? Carla, would you please call the roll?
Saltzman,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Fish.
Aye. The amendment is adopted.
So question, the Metro letter also talks about Title IV and expresses a few concerns about that. What's the Bureau's response to that?
Most of the Metros, there's a recurring theme in the Metro letter about you're adopting the comprehensive plan map, and much of the Metro functional plan addresses the ultimate zoning map. And so it's a little premature for them to reach a final conclusion. And depending on how we write our zoning code, it may or may not be a problem. And that's in progress right now. And we've been working with them to make sure that the zoning code is ultimately written in a way that complies with the functional plan.
Perfect, thank you.
Great question, very clear answer, thank you. So now we'll get to the testimony portion of our hearing. And previously, I've made clear that if anyone wishes to testify, they are limited today to the content of the revised ordinances. Carla, we'll start with Council Item 559. Did anyone sign up to testify?
No one signed up.
Would anyone present like to testify? Seeing none, we'll switch now to Council Item 660, which is the amendments to the comprehensive plan. Carla, did anyone sign up to testify?
No one signed up.
Is there anyone present today that would like to be heard on this matter? Seeing none, the next formal order of business is to pass these on to a second reading and a final vote on June 15th at 2 p.m. Colleagues, any final comments? Eric, last word?
I'd like to just take a moment again to thank my staff and all the staff in BPS who've worked on this, and in particular over the last month, Senior Planner Al Burns, who put a lot of work into the findings and dialogue with Metro. So thanks, Al.
And so we will have a chance to do our final statements and the final vote on June 15th at 2 p.m. With that, this hearing is closed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we had, all right, so could I have an addendum?
Please.
Before you adjourn the meeting?
Wait a second. This hearing is reopened. Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I wanted to note that we had a discussion during the street vacation items in the comprehensive plan, and it was indicated that there was language about parking in either the glossary or in the transportation system plan. It's my understanding that, in fact, that may not be the case, and that those amendments are currently working their way through the Planning Commission, Planning and Sustainability Commission, and will be coming to us in the fall. But I just wanted to put that on the record, and thank you for reopening the record, President Fish, because otherwise that particular issue is pretty much the only one that I feel a significant concern about. But I do trust that we can address it later in the year through this parallel process.
Thank you very much. I also just want to acknowledge that Stan Penkin is here, who leads the Arts Oversight Committee, among other things. And Joe Rossi is here, and Joe now has an unblemished record of attendance at comp plan hearings. With that, the hearing is closed.